The Souls series began with a project on the verge of cancellation which later came to be known as Demon Souls, arriving on the PlayStation 3 in 2009. It was well received and led to the creation of Dark Souls, which not only spawned an entirely new genre in gaming, leading to multiple Souls-like clones, but also quickly became a landmark in the industry. The series has since evolved with each new installment, and while FromSoftware's recent games don't carry the Souls name, they actually still carry the same spirit and design. However, with the rise of the series and FromSoftware's standing in the industry, there's been a constant, ongoing debate over the difficulty of these games, especially with the release of Sekiro Shadows Die Twice in 2019 and FromSoftware's most recent and phenomenal achievement, Elden Ring. Hey guys, it's Ren. In this video, I'll talk about the Souls series, its spiritual successors, and the debate over the difficulty of these titles and the genre overall. So, whenever we talk about From Software, what immediately comes to our minds isn't Armored Core or those few Tenchu games they worked on. It's Dark Souls. The series and From Software itself are associated with difficult and challenging experiences that are often quote-unquote too difficult and unfair. Now, there's a decent number of people who echo that statement and want the developers to add a dedicated, easy mode to their games. However, that sentiment is flawed, and I'll explain why I believe that is the case. Over the last 2 decades, games have gradually moved towards a side of being more accessible, enjoyable, and something that doesn't really take too much of your time. If you boot up a new title from the last 10 years, you'll spend the first 30 minutes or something reading long paragraphs and being introduced to each individual element of the game. And that's labeled as a tutorial. It's actually good since it equips you with the knowledge to play the rest of the game, but sometimes it's taken a bit too far or is just executed poorly. One example of this is Xenoblade Chronicles 2. While the games equip you with all this knowledge, sometimes part of that turns out to be completely irrelevant, and the game doesn't necessarily challenge you to put all of that to the test, which leads to too much hand-holding. Add to that the practice of microtransactions under the mask of convenience and saving time, and you know what I'm trying to get at. Games back in the day required the player to observe, analyze, and progress. A player was challenged, and it felt rewarding to overcome that challenge, like defeating Cyborg Ninja in Metal Gear Solid or winning against Onikage in Tenchu had meaning, and these challenges were arguably enjoyable as well. It's true that the times have changed and the average player is probably not playing games for that kind of experience anymore. The overall quality of games in general, I believe, has declined. The Souls series, however, at its core, tries to bring that back. It's not without flaws, but it's doing something that actually works. It puts you, the player, in a world and introduces you to its systems with concise pop-ups, and that's it. Now it's on you as a player to be curious, explore, analyze, experiment, and overcome. Due to how the overall dynamic of players and games have changed, it's true that FromSoftware's titles will not appeal to everybody, and frankly, they don't have to. FromSoftware, they've built an audience over the last decade, and that audience is always there for their work. New players enter the genre, they try out some of their stuff, and end up liking it, while some don't, and that's perfectly fine. Of course, though, the community has its flaws, and I'll get into that as well. But if the developers are targeting a certain demographic with their games, and it's working, it's been working. You see these people calling the games too difficult or unfair, but the fact is, they're either playing it wrong, or have the wrong mindset, or they just jump on the bandwagon every time a new From Software game is hyped up to the max, and they know it. It's because it's easier to say too hard or too difficult than to play it right or find a build that is easy and cheesy, because that's how it is. I see people online go full melee in these games and play like it's Devil May Cry or some other hack and slash, but that's really not going to work. Go back, look around, maybe try something environmental, or maybe just try a hybrid melee mage build and explore options that are available to you. Be patient, observe, practice. But people treat these games and RPGs in general as sprints when it's actually more of a marathon. And Souls games, being just more punishing overall, tend to be more frustrating. And that's what it leads to. It leads to frustration and burnouts, which culminates into this whole, oh, this game is just unfair, I can't do this, From Software sucks, this and that. But that's just how it is. The series has evolved in mechanics and the systems ever since the first release. It's not without flaws, but it's progressing in the right direction. In Dark Souls, you can not only use magic, of course, but getting a Black Knight halberd early on and building your character around it actually made your experience better overall. They introduced power stancing in Dark Souls 2, which gave your combat system a more offensive approach. The option was there, and that led to Bloodborne, in which you had even more offensive options, fast-paced combat, and a mechanic which allows you to regain lost HP if you use it right. That mechanic actually made a difference. After that, we had weapon arts in Dark Souls 3, which evened up the ground a bit more. You could actually decimate some of the bosses, if not all of the bosses, with some of the weapon arts that were in the game. And after that, we had Sekiro, which just introduced a whole new combat system reliant on reaction time. And if you did it right, you could actually bypass the whole HP bar of the boss and kill them in 2 or 3 big hits, which is big. And now we finally have Elden Ring. They've not only added ashes for the solo encounters, but they also added verticality, something I never thought Souls would have. And it's funny how this minor addition has actually made a world of a difference in the overall experience. You can actually dodge some of the attacks coming your way by simply jumping, and that's amazing. So the point over here is that they've always been challenging, yet fair, but not impossible or too hard. In recent interviews, and you can look this up online, FromSoftware has talked about their identity and mindset when they develop these games, how hardship and perseverance adds meaning to the experience and the victory. Even director Miyazaki has stated that he believes in the player's ability to adapt, analyze, and win. And the way I see it, this is actually a compliment, and the loyal player base kind of gets it in some way, shape, or form. Truth is, these games are not exactly for everyone, but you can pick up the game, do some research, and pick a build that gives you the most advantage. And it works. You can get through the game. I recently watched a podcast video on YouTube by Young Ripa in which he talk about the whole accessibility debate and how the lines between this and the game's design are blurred. I'll link the video in the description, so do check it out if you want to. He touched upon how people knock the game and its design under the guise of accessibility. There are a lot of games out there, and not everything is for everybody, but the second you play something and you're not able to play it because of a reason exclusive to you, you can't exactly blame the game or its devs for not making it more accessible. They're aiming at a specific audience, and that audience loves it. Their viewers love it, the critics love it, and it's added more variety and life into the gaming space overall. Like, these games don't really have visual indicators or something that makes the overall experience or atmosphere easy to deal with, and that's because that's how the game is designed to be. It's not really an issue which revolves around accessibility, so if you're not able to adjust to it, you can't really knock the developers for not making the game more accessible when it's just a design choice targeting a certain demographic or achieving something in their games. The developers respecting a player's ability to overcome challenges is really cool, to be honest, and it's something that most modern games don't really do. But all this is only me talking about From Software alone. If you look at some of the Souls-like clones that have come out, they've done things differently here and there. My personal favorite is the Neo series, and people think those games are too difficult as well. And the truth is, they are, but they also have a lot of potential and options in how you approach the combat, its challenges, and all that. You've got melee options, 3 stances on the fly, ninjutsu, onmyo, buffs and debuffs, consumables, special abilities, and the biggest thing of all, keepos, a mechanic which allows you to restore lost stamina by timing the button press right. And that is amazing. So the point over here is difficulty born of the lack of exploration and experimentation is artificial and does not represent the actual difficulty of the game itself, but rather your own way of playing the game. And that's a fact. What adds even more fuel to the fire is the stigma surrounding summons and ashes. I have no idea where this stemmed from or who started this whole elitism culture, but if you play a Souls game and you use a summon, people apparently make you feel bad for it online. Or if you use what they think is a broken weapon, you're apparently a cheater. Like, that's just you imposing your own experience, suffering over someone else. Like, those kind of people are always going to be out there. But the thing over here to understand is that play the game in your own way. Whether you want to use an in-game system given to you by the devs is your decision. And no one's breaking any world records or anything by using a summon or something, but if that's how you want to play, play it. Use a summon. Go and use a summon. That's your choice. And besides, even with summons, these games don't really get easy. At least in FromSoftware's titles, the boss HP skills, so whether you use summons or not, it doesn't really make that much of a difference unless the person you've summoned is like 500 levels above you and he's just nuking the boss with special weapons and whatnot, in which case I'd argue that it might impact the experience. But then again, it's your game, it's your playthrough. Play the game however you want. From Software games handle the scaling and everything, and that makes them a bit better because in Neo, you can do some crazy stuff with what's available in the game. If you've used ninjutsu and onmyo magic in Neo, you know what I'm talking about. You can do some really crazy stuff in there. And the best part is that this stigma is actually only really prevalent in From Software games because you don't really see it in other Souls-like titles, which to me just proves the point that someone somehow just started this whole elitist, you're a cheater for using summons and the in-game mechanics movement. Like, just play the game how you want and stop forcing your playstyle and self-imposed challenges onto others. Because in my opinion, that's just an example of gatekeeping. But yeah, that's my whole take on the whole difficulty and fairness debate. You don't have to agree with me, but do let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you like the video, please click like and subscribe to the channel for more. Click the notification bell for updates. Thank you for watching. Talk to you soon.